I feel like SHOT Show just broke loose and spilled straight into our gun rooms. In the last few weeks, the shelves have exploded with new guns and gear from every direction. Rifles, pistols, shotguns, and optics all landing at once. And tonight, we're digging into the best of that wave. This is for everyday gun owners, concealed carriers, and hunters who want to stay ahead without getting burned. The market is dropping new 5.56 rifles, modern 9mm sidearms with surprise price cuts, and a stack of tools. From smarter training guns to tougher optics and mounts, faster than most people can track. That's great for choice, but it also means your next swipe could buy a rock-solid defensive setup or an overpriced safe ornament. In this episode, I'll walk through the latest hardware and call out what actually deserves your money, your time, and your trust. Let's kick things off with a gun that looks like it just stepped out of a grainy raid photo, the H&R 636 Colette. This 9mm AR pattern PCC is basically built to scratch that clone itch. You get a dedicated blowback system, a 1.25-inch dash-ish barrel, fixed carry handle, classic A2 handguard, and that long steel tube up front that gives you the look of an integral suppressor, without actually being one. Sure, you still get all the muzzle blast, but you also get every bit of that retro silhouette your inner clone nerd craves. It runs on Colt mags, dodges NFA paperwork, and is made for folks who grin at old agency carbine picks. If you're just after a simple home defense gun, there are easier and cheaper choices. But if you're a die-hard clone collector, this is a fun way to add some serious vintage vibes to your rack. On the flip side, you've got the Ruger American Rifle Gen 2 Scout, a rifle that's all about getting the job done, not just looking cool. Built on Ruger's updated Gen 2 action, this compact bolt gun comes in .308 with a 16-inch threaded barrel, bronze receiver, and a stiffer Cryptek-style camo stock. Ruger threw on a full-length pick rail and irons, so you can run a Scout optic up front, a low-power variable, or just a simple fixed scope and still have backup sights. For hunters, ranch hands, or anyone who actually lives with a rifle bouncing around in the truck, this setup just makes sense. It's short enough to snake through brush, accurate enough for real-world hunting, and adjustable enough in comb height and length of pull to fit you, so you're not the one doing all the adapting. That focus on purpose-built design pops up again with the Ross Martin RM1 S-Comp. On paper, it's a slim 9mm carry gun about the size of a SIG P365XL, rocking a 3.6-inch barrel, a 12-round flush mag, and a taller mag that bumps capacity into the mid-teens. The twist up front, the slide has a built-in single-port compensator cut instead of a plain muzzle. You also get an optic-ready slide with an RMR plate in the box, aggressive texture, molded thumb shelves, and a flat-face trigger, all for an MSRP under $500 and street prices that dip even lower. The catch is that Ross Martin is brand new. You don't get a decade of proven duty use or a wall of holsters at every shop. What you do get is a factory take on the Roland Special vibe, for folks who want more performance than a plain Micro 9mm, without paying custom build prices, right in the middle of all this modern, practical gear. The Auto Ordnance 80th Anniversary Iwo Jima M. One carbine goes full-on sentimental. Mechanically, it's a classic semi-auto M1 carbine in .30 carbine with an 18-inch barrel and the familiar layout. The real magic is in the walnut stock, laser engraved with battle scenes, the iconic flag raising, and the names of Marines who never made it home, plus a simple script honoring the fallen. Nobody's picking this up because it's the most efficient tool for the job. They're buying it because someone in their family wore the globe and anchor or told stories about the Pacific, and they want something real to point to when passing those stories down. Sure, it'll shoot just fine, but its real job is to live in a safe or on a wall and keep those memories alive. Swinging back to the hard use side, the Benelli M4 EXT is basically the factory's answer to a question American shooters have been asking for 20 years. Why can't we just buy the setup we see in all the photos? For ages. Import rules meant civilian Benelli M4s showed up with a short mag tube and fixed stock. And if you wanted the full 7+1 capacity and collapsible stock, you had to play the 922R parts game. The M4 XT finally ships with the full-length tube and adjustable stock right in the box, built around the same Argo gas system and 12-gauge Wawish 3-inch chamber that made the M4 a legend. The catch price: At around $2.600, it's a big bite in a world where the Beretta 1301 Tactical and a 300 Ultima Patrol exist. If you've always wanted a full-power M4 and have the budget, this is the easy button. If you're stretching, you might be better off grabbing a cheaper shotgun and spending the rest on training. That shotgun kind of sums up where the industry is at right now. The setups folks used to piece together slowly with parts and forum advice are finally coming straight from the factory. But the price tags have climbed. 2. If you're honest about what you actually need, that can be a good thing. No more gambling on compatibility or waiting months for gunsmith work. You can buy one box, hit the range the same day, and know you're running the same layout you've been drooling over for years. This latest wave of launches makes one thing clear: companies aren't afraid to build hyper-specific tools and charge real money for them. That's just as true in the rifle rack as it is with pistols and shotguns. Sig Sauer is jumping back into the piston 5.56 game with the SIG 516 G3, a carbine that tries to live somewhere between regular ARs and the SIG MCX family. You get a 16-inch cold hammer forged barrel, a short-stroke adjustable piston, and a non-reciprocating side charging handle, along with the standard rear handle. Inside, SIG borrowed some durability tricks from the MCX line, but mags, triggers, and most accessories remain fully AR compatible for shooters who want a cleaner-running, suppressor-friendly system without giving up that AR feel. It's appealing. At around $2.100 though, it has to prove it brings something real to the table compared to high-end DI guns and entry-level MCXs. The Daniel Defense H9 is a great example of how brands are trying to adapt. The gun itself is a 9mm striker-fired pistol with a 4.28-inch barrel, 15-round magazines, an aluminum frame, a super low bore axis, and an optic cut. In the hand, it feels like someone mashed up a single-stack 1911 grip angle with a modern double-stack slide, then dropped the barrel down closer to your hand than usual. When it first hit the scene, the look and concept turned a lot of heads, but the high MSRP and mixed early reviews kept plenty of buyers away. Daniel Defense did something rare for a big name and slashed the MSRP by about $400, dropping the H9 into the $999 zone. That move pulls it out of the awkward space between polymer strikers and 2011-style pistols and into a more realistic comparison set. It still has to prove itself for long-term reliability, but now the value conversation is finally worth having. But guns are only half the story. The other half is the gear that helps you squeeze more out of the rifles and pistols you already own. On the precision side, the MDT CKY Pod Gen 3 is the first thing that pops into most shooters' heads when you say bipod. It's nowhere near cheap, but it's earned its rep by being lightning fast to deploy, rock solid on weird barricades, and crazy adjustable. Gen 3 brings bigger, easier to grab controls, legs that lock at the top to avoid nasty surprises, and machined-in texture instead of stick-on panels. If you only shoot off a bench a couple of times a year, dropping $600 to $1,000 on a bipod sounds nuts. But if you run positional stages all season, a stable interface with the ground is just as crucial as your barrel or trigger. Perched on top of a lot of those rifles is the Vortex Razor HD Gen 3 424x44, a scope built for designated marksman rifles and semi-auto precision builds. You get a 424x zoom, 44mm objective, 34mm tube, and all the durability the Razor line is famous for, but in a package that's smaller and lighter than the Monster 636X models. That makes it a better fit for 5.56 and 7.62 gas guns that need to be carried all day but still reach out when the shot comes up. The catch MSRP is north of $4,200. This isn't glass you buy on a whim. It's an investment for folks who demand rock-solid tracking, precise adjustments, and top-tier clarity, and are willing to spend more on the optic than the rifle underneath. Training gear is evolving just as fast. The Mantis Titan X is a dedicated training pistol built to make dry fire way less boring and a whole lot more useful. Instead of clipping a sensor onto your real handgun or buying a toy laser pistol that feels nothing like your carry gun, the Titan X gives you a realistic trigger, built-in Mantis motion sensor, visible laser, and an optic cut, all in one package. Every press sends data to the Mantis app, showing exactly how you're moving the gun and where your hits would land. You can see if you're jerking shots low left, getting lazy on transitions, or breaking your grip on the draw. At around $200, it undercuts a lot of older training pistols while giving you a much richer feedback loop. And it starts paying for itself the first time you swap a random range trip for 10 minutes of focused dry fire. If dry fire is all about nailing the tiny details, the Antimatter Industries Scope Switch Gen 2 is about making one big move easier. In plain English, it's a mount and linkage system that connects your support hand to the magnification ring on your scope, kind of like a throttle. Instead of breaking your cheek weld and hunting for a tiny throw lever, you just push or pull from the same spot and feel the optic sweep from low to high power and back. Gen 2 drops the price from the first version and cleans up the design, but it's still a specialist tool sitting in the high $300 range for serious 2-gun and 3-gun shooters who are constantly bouncing between up-close paper and distant steel. Being able to adjust magnification without thinking can save real time. For everyone else, it's just a clever example of how far companies will go to help shooters run their glass under stress. Back down on the pistol slide, the Vortex Venom. Enclosed Red Dot is trying to bring some of the perks of high-end enclosed optics into a price range more folks can actually reach. Instead of an open emitter that can get clogged with rain, dust, sweat, or pocket lint, this is a fully enclosed micro-optic built for carry and duty use. It runs a 3 MOA dot, a Delta Point Pro-style footprint, side-loading CR2032 battery, and motion activation, so it's ready when you draw but doesn't burn battery while your gun sits in the safe. With an MSRP just under $300 and real-world prices already dipping into the low $200s, it lands in that sweet spot between cheap open dots and the priciest duty-grade enclosed options. For everyday Americans who actually carry, hunt, and train, this latest wave of guns and gear is both a huge opportunity and a bit of a trap. On one hand, you've got access to retro-flavored 9mm carbines, truck-friendly .308 bolts, factory-comped 9mm carry guns, piston-driven 5.56 rifles, heirloom-grade .30 carbine pieces, and a pile of serious optics, bipods, training pistols, and red dots. On the other hand, some of these price tags are high enough that an impulse buy could wreck your budget for ammo and classes. The upside: if you take a little time to figure out what each of these actually does well, you can pick the one or two that really fit how you live and shoot, and skip the rest. That's the whole point of a rundown like this. I'm not telling you to buy everything that looks cool. I'm giving you a map. Maybe that means circling one new carbine and a training tool and ignoring the rest this year. Perhaps it means realizing the most brilliant move is to hold your money and just shoot what you already own a little harder. All right, folks, that's it for today's rundown. Stay safe, train hard, God bless, and I'll see you next time. Y'all.